Hello neighbor, I'm Robert Burns and welcome once again to another edition of Sound Off Louisiana. And you may recall toward the end of last year we did a feature involving the resignation of Michael Lynn Satcher, State Police Trooper Michael Lynn Satcher. And toward the end of that video I let you know that there were some encouraging signs by newly appointed Louisiana State Police Colonel Lamar Davis. But I said that at that time it would be inappropriate for me to steal his thunder, so to speak, by revealing what sources had told us about moves that were going to be imminent within state police. But now we can make those revelations because on Monday of this week, that was Monday, January the 4th, Colonel Davis did make those moves official. And we believe all three of the moves were very encouraging, and we believe they were the right moves to make, to be honest with you. So we're going to briefly cover the three moves. We're going to focus on the third one more so because that one particularly we think was a stellar move that was undoing something that never should have been done in the first place. So let us begin by congratulating newly appointed Lieutenant Colonel Cammon. He will now be a deputy superintendent in charge of parole, or overseeing parole. That used to be the function of then Lieutenant Colonel J. Oliphant, and we'll get to him in just a moment. But we would like to extend congratulations to newly appointed Lieutenant Colonel Cammon. Now, the second promotion, and I'll just say this, first impressions are often very lasting, and I'll also say we have heard some very complimentary things of both of these two gentlemen who received the promotions. But I will also say, with regard to the second gentleman who has also been promoted to Lieutenant Colonel, that would be newly appointed Lieutenant Colonel Kenneth Van Buren. And as I said, first impressions can be pretty lasting. And some of our longer-term subscribers may remember some time back we covered a Louisiana State Police Commission meeting, a hearing involving a Sergeant Trahan, and I'm going to be very brief because I want to get to a 34-second clip of newly appointed Lieutenant Colonel Kenny Van Buren. And by the way, he will be overseeing investigations, and previously he was in the gaming division of state police. And that goes to my point. Sergeant Trahan apparently decided to disobey a direct order that he revealed the name of an individual at a casino who expressed some concerns about Louisiana State Police coming in unannounced or things to that effect. And so Van Buren told Lieutenant Luray to issue an order to Sergeant Trahan to reveal the name of that individual, and Sergeant Trahan made a decision to disobey a direct order and say he wasn't going to give the name. And in the 34-second clip we're about to give you, Trahan appealed his discipline, and so there was an appeal hearing at the State Police Commission, and Mary Ann White, who is the attorney now utilized, well, not solely utilized by the Louisiana State Troopers Association, because Floyd Falcon never seems to totally disappear, but they're gradually transitioning her to representing troopers who choose to make an appeal, and she's the one you'll see in this video, and she poses the question of now Lieutenant Colonel Kenneth Van Buren, well, why was it so important that you get the name of this individual? And he said, because I felt Sergeant Trahan was deceptive. And you'll notice Mary Ann White say, I'm sorry? As almost as if to say, are you going to sit right here and accuse my client of lying? And I have respect for somebody who doesn't mind telling you straight to your face. And that's what you're going to see in this 34-second clip. Lieutenant Colonel Van Buren certainly doesn't stutter. He articulates very well, and you're going to see him go ahead and say exactly what he meant, which I think when you say that I felt he was deceptive, it's pretty clear. But if you want to hear the L word, he went ahead and acquiesced. So let's break away for that 34-second clip. We'll be right back.
Following orders important. also obviously in big matters. Now, we just simply do not have that luxury in state police to disobey a direct order.
Captain Van Buren, why was the name of the casino administrator so important to the original incident?
Because I perceived it to be deceptive.
I'm sorry, deceptive.
I perceived that statement to be deceptive, and personally, I felt that he was lying about it.
All right, I think you can agree with me that Kenneth Van Buren is someone who's not going to hesitate to let you know where you stand with him, and I think that's an admirable trait. And as I said, first impressions are lasting, and he made a favorable one, I believe, to all of the viewers who saw our original feature back on July the 9th with regard to Sergeant Trahan. Now, I am going to focus most of this video, and I made a New Year's resolution to try to make these things shorter, but on the third move, which I think is the most authoritative and the most needed move in state police, to be quite frank with you, and that is the demotion of Lieutenant Colonel J. Oliphant. Now, of course, as police put this out, as the announcement came, they're not going to be so brass as to just refer to it as a demotion. They referred to it as a transfer from lieutenant colonel to major, but I don't have to be so polite, and so I'm going to use the word demotion because that's what it is. Okay, and I mentioned to you earlier that newly appointed Lieutenant Colonel Cammon was now a deputy superintendent of patrol. That was the former position held by previously Lieutenant Colonel, now Major J. Oliphant. And I'm just going to say that there have been so many things that have happened under J. Oliphant's watch that he really should have had or is over. And yet some things went on for rather protracted periods. You may have surmised that race relations within Louisiana State Police are not the greatest in the world. And on some of these occasions, he was in a position to have tried to abate that or try to mitigate it, and appears to have done absolutely nothing. So I'm going to cover we're going to give you links to all these events that took place under J. Oliphant's leadership. But I'm not going to spend an extensive amount of time in this video on them because you're welcome to click on the links. Many of them are from Channel 2, WBRZ, and Chris Nakamoto. And so if you want further details, I would encourage you to go there. Some of them will be some sound off links. But at any rate, we'll start with Kasha Domang. She's a trooper who shot a gentleman in the back, an unarmed gentleman. He is now paralyzed for life, and she is facing charges with regard to that in East Baton Rouge Parish. District Attorney Hiller Moore is the prosecutor. There's a direct link where you can get more if you would like. We'll move on to Jacob Brown. He is the son of Robert Brown, who held the position that Kenneth Van Buren, Lieutenant Colonel Kenneth Van Buren, now holds. And you will see the link where he was recently arrested involving alleged excessive force. And that also involves an African-American gentleman, also up in the Monroe area, just as the third one that we'll talk about briefly. There was a lawsuit filed. I'm not going to go into all the details of the lawsuit because there were all kinds of service problems and this, that, and the other. We'll probably cover that at a later date. But the point is, he was over this area, okay, and yet this transpired and stayed in the dark for quite some time until the lawsuit was filed and his recent arrest, talking about Jacob Brown. I'll move on to Ronald Green. I would imagine that most people have heard the name Ronald Green. I would hope so. But rather than giving you an overview of what happened, I'm going to break away for a 22-second clip. This is former Louisiana State Trooper Chris Hollingsworth. I will warn you that the audio and the video that accompanies it is graphic, but we're going to break away for 22 seconds to let you see the situation with Ronald Green. We'll be right back. All right, that will give you just the gist of the Ronald Green situation, but which is far more troubling is the ever-increasing evidence that there was a cover-up here. That's become so apparent now that it's extremely difficult to try to argue against it. Everything from this was going to be written up, or probably was written up, as an accident, hitting a small shrub off the side of the road after the vehicle ran off, and so forth. That's under federal investigation from everything that's been told, or actually it's been said even by Colonel Davis on camera, so we'll have to assume that's the case. But troubling is the efforts by state police to not only not be forthright about what happened here, but even to be deceptive about it. And I'm going to elaborate in just a moment. Well, I'll save it. Let's move on. Next, we have August McKay. I'm not going to spend a lot of time on that because it's been in the news recently. We're going to give you links both to Chris Nakamoto's original feature about him allegedly referencing a colleague as an effing N. Again, I want to relay that the race problems that exist within state police, former Lieutenant Colonel Oliphant was in a position to at least try and negate some of this, and there is no evidence that he did anything. But at any rate, we have August McKay having allegedly referenced a colleague as an effing N, and then of course subsequently I'm sure everyone will be aware, and that's the second link with regard to August McKay. Apparently there was some drug activity that he was involved in when the Louisiana State Police went to serve him with a search warrant at his home. He managed to get to a place where he could commit suicide and did so. But there again, all of these have transpired under Jay Oliphant's watch. Now I'm going to move on. We have Caleb Reeves. Caleb Reeves is the son of the former colonel of state police, Kevin Reeves. We did a feature in January of 2019 with regard to Caleb Reeves getting a prestigious transfer. And I say prestigious because from everything I've been told, this doesn't happen unless you've been with the force for 7 years or so. And you got to bear in mind, special legislation had to be enacted to enable Caleb Reeves to be hired in the first place. And at the time, Colonel Reeves gave the assurance there would be no preference for his son, and yet he goes to this detective position. I will mention that Doug Kane, who then sort of ran public affairs, called me personally and let me know that this was not a promotion, that it was basically a lateral move, and I had troopers that told me, well, if that's the case, is he still out there patrolling like the rest of us? At any rate, Caleb Reeves, shortly after the Ronald Green incident, was involved he was heading to an accident, and regrettably, he himself wound up rear-ending some folks traveling in a vehicle, and unfortunately the two rear seat passengers were killed as a result of that rear-ending. We're going to give you the link for all of the documentation pertaining to Caleb Reeves's fleet accidents, because there are more than one during his tenure at state police. You're just welcome to look over them if you would like. I want to move on now to Michael Lynn Satcher. We have covered that fairly extensively, and we'll give you the link for the most recent, that being his resignation over alleged domestic abuse. That next court hearing is on February the 25th, and it speaks for itself. From everything I'm being educated on, I had to pause to think of the right words, with regard to the air support unit of state police. It's got some problems, okay? And obviously this was one of them, but there are other features coming, so I'm not going to venture off onto that on this feature. But as everyone is aware, he did resign on effective December the 18th. In fact, it was now Lieutenant Colonel Chavez Cammon that gave me the confirmation that he in fact had resigned once we were notified of that to be the case. But we don't run with features until we can get confirmation, and he expeditiously gave us that confirmation. Now I want to focus the rest of this on, because we've itemized 6 items that transpired under Oliphant's watch, but now we're saying, you know, the old saying about we save the best for last, and that is the Calvin Braxton situation. And when we did that January feature that I alluded to with regard to Caleb Reeves getting the transfer, a key figure in that was Lieutenant Colonel J. Oliphant. He had to sign off on it, and we told you that former Colonel Reeves had provided Lieutenant Colonel Oliphant with not 1 but 2 promotions in the short tenure that Reeves had at that point served as colonel. And you've heard the old saying about, well, we take 2 steps forward, 1 step back. And I think that would be apropos here. Arguably, there are those that would say that the two steps forward never should have taken place, but they did under Colonel Reeves. But now we most certainly have 1 step back in the demotion of Lieutenant Colonel J. Oliphant. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to provide you beneath this feature with some of the key elements with regard to the Braxton litigation as we had it at that point. And on another feature where I summarized all of the different lawsuits involving state, well, not all of them, but a lot of the major ones. And I said at that time, with regard to Calvin Braxton, there were some depositions that were upcoming, and I said, oh, would I love to be able to purchase tickets to these depositions. Well, we're now, I don't know, 1.5 years later, and I think it's 1.5 years, whatever the case, it's been a while. As you know, court cases drag on and on. But now, fortunately, Ms. Kraft, Calvin Braxton's attorney, has filed quite a few of those depositions into the public record. And we are going to commence very soon with a multi-part series on just what some of the things that have been stated in these depositions. But for now, I'm just going to let you look at the material that we did back upon the Caleb Reeves promotion as it pertains to J. Oliphant. And there was quite a bit of interconnection, if you will, between then head of patrol for Troop F, that was Kevin Reeves' position at the time. He had to sign off on all of this, the incident report, and I'm not going to go into the detail, but you have to, it's better to look at it in writing on there. And you're going to see the Facebook post, the whole 9 yards. I mean, there is so many problematic actions with regard to J. Oliphant that I'm not going to. This thing would take quite some time, and I made a New Year's resolution to shorten these things. But I do want to conclude this video with one thing. Now, like I said, we're going to be doing a multi-part series with regard to bringing you up to speed on Calvin Braxton. And the way we're going to do that is we're going to take individual depositions and cover what some folks said. But I'm not going to provide you with a link for this because we're going to provide it in a subsequent feature. But I cannot help but read off this one bit and make sure I get it here. Yes. This is a small excerpt. I don't have a printer anymore. Nobody prints anything. And so I put the PDF file on my screen, and then I took a photo of it so that I could read it to you, because I do not want to provide a link, because I want to save. This is just a small little sample of things you're going to find in these depositions. But I find this mind-boggling. So when you hear the question, that's going to be Jill Kraft, Calvin Braxton's attorney, posing the question. And then when you hear the answer, that would be, this is coming from the deposition of J. Oliphant, okay? All right, I'm going to go ahead and read it. Y'all forgive me, I'm just going to read verbatim, beginning with a question posed by Ms. Kraft. In order to conduct a threat assessment, correct me if I'm wrong, but you engage in like the temperament of the person. You figure out if they have any psychological disorders as much as you can, the environment surrounding them, whether or not they're armed with a weapon, things of that nature. Is that right? I don't know. I don't do SWOT assessments. I'm not sure. You have done them before though, haven't you? No, I haven't. And you are currently the head of SWAT? Is that right? That's under your control? SWAT does fall under my control, yes. And I'll leave it at that, okay? Now, I would like to attribute this to just be mere incompetence on the part of former Colonel Kevin Reeves, promoting somebody to these levels who readily admits, given some credit at least, he told the truth under oath, that he's never done one of these, okay? And yet he's over it, okay? And I think you're starting to see the prospects for former Lieutenant Colonel Oliphant having got where he got, not as a result of knowledge and ability, but perhaps as a reward for being the good little soldier. And I'll let it go at that. That as we further go into the Calvin Braxton situation, it's going to get interesting. So I had said I'd like to be able to buy tickets. Obviously I couldn't, but fortunately Ms. Kraft has been kind enough to put quite a few of these depositions into the public record, and I am very grateful for having done so, because it cost Calvin Braxton, I believe it was about $1,300 for these. That's just the filing fee to get these things into the public record. And I will tell you, there's no way little Robert Burns at Sound Off, Louisiana can shell out $1,300 to get all these depositions. So the way it works, you get a one-day pass for $20. I had to do a lot of reading of some depositions in that one day, and I will tell you I took out a second-day pass sometime later. And I started selectively choosing some pages because, this old boy ain't going to be able to shell out $1,000. I still had to shell out over, I don't know, about $130. So you can do the math about the percentage of the depositions that I went ahead and downloaded. We're going to get the money's worth, because I think it was worth the price of admission. So we're going to wrap this feature up. Again, I want to state that I believe that Colonel Lamar Davis has made some excellent moves, and I think you have seen me justify why I have that opinion. And we're looking forward to launching in to that multi-part Calvin Braxton update. We think you're going to find some of the things in those depositions to be quite intriguing. So this is Robert Burns saying once again, thank you so much for your dedicated viewership, and we look forward to seeing you again very soon. In fact, I can tell you we will, because we're going to have another interesting update on state police. I'm not going to give the subject matter within the next, 4 or 5 days or so. Thank you so much. I hope everyone's New Year's gotten off to a great start, and we'll see you again soon.